Aang versus Traveler. Yeah, the Traveler won. Who would have seen that coming? To be honest, the way DeathBattle actually said for the analysis, I'm surprised they actually went with like island level for Traveler, which, to be honest, looking back, is actually pretty consistent and where Traveler should actually be scaled. As with other power scalers scaling to moon level, it is realistically and canonically incorrect. And yeah, saying that he's iron level is pretty much his basically a agreed upon high ball potential that he can get. And yeah, in terms of speed, yeah, speed was yes. Let's not talk about speed. Yeah, that's the only reason why Traveler really won. Speed blitz. That's kind of about it. Anything else like the elemental reactions and stuff like that, and combining, no, just no. But yeah, but there is one thing in Death Battle's rules: you cannot use crossverse scaling. And yes, Death Battle has not used crossverse scaling at the very least since for a while. The only time that I could remember they used crossverse scaling was with He-Man versus Lionel, where He-Man scales to Superman. The same Superman, how they scale to be Goku. And that's the only time they actually did it in terms of how I actually went about it. Now, the only way they use crossverse scaling is if it's canon to the character. But if we do give Aang crossverse scaling, what does he have? And to make it fair, does Traveler have any? Let's go and find out. So yeah, Aang has 3 possible crossverse scalings that we can actually go for. The main one a lot of people know about is Fortnite. I don't know how much I want to tell you, but to be honest, this would make the fight severely not fair because in terms of Aang's release for Fortnite, he will be stronger than Fortnite Goku, who says his Kamehameha was the strongest thing they ever saw at that time, meaning that it kind of already eclipsed the 0 point in a technical sense. So, unless you want to say that one, which is a confirmed one, it's reasonable, but that just be a stomp on the other side. And while I like to see that, it would be funny. But let's make this more fair. There is the second one. I mean, the second one is technically the most recent one they have for Aang, but yeah, I just want to save the third option for last. So the second one is Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, a racing game. Does this mean that Aang scales to Sonic characters? Anyone at all? Anyone else? The problem with this one is, well, in terms of strength, just straight up AP, power, attack potency, whatever you want to call it, Aang will still have the same type of attack potency because it's a racing game. He does not really fight other people, and the items mostly do the work for in terms of damaging. How about travel speed? The same, unless you count extreme gear, leaning forward, and stuff like that. That's technically reaction time, but maybe travel speed, you can argue for that if you really want to. Let's just say, for the fun of it, let's say that reaction speed does scale to travel speed and combat speed. This is not true, but let's just go with it, because the only way it could be true if it was stated. Now, Aang's reaction speed will actually be scaled up to the other characters, which means that at the very least, Aang can actually be at least light base in terms of reactions. This would also scale to the other speed like skills if we really want to push it to be equal. That reaction speed is the same as travel speed. It is not, but let's just do it for fun, shall we? Now, if that was the case, then that would mean that yes, his speed, that will be light speed. But we do know that later in the future, Godzilla will be in the game too with his atomic breath. And then there's the Yellow Devil, who's already in, the guy from Mega Man, the boss from Mega Man. Yeah, that one. I mean, there's also the Evangelions, the Evos, from Evangelion. They're here too. Technically say that Aang might actually scale to those. Maybe. But yeah, I say light speed to faster than light is pretty good for his reaction speed. If you really go for just reaction speed, that means Aang can dodge. He cannot hit, and he cannot hit Traveler, He doesn't have enough power to actually one-shot him, but he can certainly dodge, at least for the short amount of time that he can. If we actually scale this to his actual travel speed and combat speed, in terms of combat speed, Aang can actually hit a lot more hits. He can dodge he can dodge at least most of Traveler's attacks if possible, depending if he doesn't use like elemental reactions. And of course, he can keep up with Traveler. So technically, with this type of thing, with Sonic vs. Crossworlds, and if you really want to scale reaction speed to travel and combat speed, this would actually make Aang basically equal stats with Traveler, which Aang would still lose because Traveler still has the combination ability for combining elements and reactions to just make with Aang's own elements. Kind of about it, and also the light barrier and yada 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 stuff that the Traveler does technically have. There is one more that we can use. Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl, the Smash clone. So this would mean that, Aang could scale to the Ninja Turtles, technically speaking, a bit more so this time. He can scale up against Toph, and of course, the Legend of Korra, which would be Korra. You could also scale young Aang above Korra if you really must, because Korra is stronger. Other than that, you can scale him to Danny Phantom, you can scale him to Garfield, you can scale him to Zim, you can scale him to like Jenny, XJ9. You can also scale him to Hugh Neutron. Yes, the guy who can basically send you to the Shadow Realm. Yes, that guy. I mean, there's also SpongeBob. You can see how many things we can actually scale Aang with this one, right? So yeah, this is basically the one that a lot of people do know more about, surprisingly, But I guess because the commercials for, or like the advertisement for Aang in Sonic vs. Crossworlds. Yeah. But this one's basically the better one, and this is young Aang. You can actually upscale this to Baby the movie if that was canon. And of course, if it's canon. Actually, the movie is canon. I'm surprised that, they didn't include anything for the movie. Just maybe the model and the story, but not really the powers set for that. I mean, they give all characters everything, so I'm surprised they didn't do too much for him. Other than that, yeah. You can just scale to SpongeBob, which would mean he's universal in power, universal in durability. He's basically massively faster than light. He has reaction speeds closer to that too. No Toon Force, but that just means he stomps not too heavily, but still pretty heavily to the Traveler. He stomps Traveler basically, but not as brutal as Fortnite, but still pretty brutal. If anything, to make this a much more even fight and a much more reasonable fight, is that if we actually scale Avatar to Jenny. I sometimes call Aang the Avatar, or just Avatar, because it counts, right? I mean, Aang is the Avatar. Yeah. I don't know how many of you guys actually notice about that. Either way, yeah, we can scale Aang to Jenny. Jenny's technically like meteor, like technically close to meteor level, which could actually be at least small moon level if you're going to push it. In terms of speed, could be at least faster than light, possibly. Durability wise, about the same. So yeah, you might be wondering that I mentioned durability a few times. That's because, at least for The Last Airbender, a lot of characters are technically glass cannons. But yeah, I digress. In terms of crossverse scaling, these are the three that we can use for Traveler against Traveler. That's what I meant, against Traveler. So yeah, Aang would get the Fortnite scaling. That would be overpowered. He could also possibly get the Sonic Racing Crossworld scaling, which would actually make this an equal stats fight, I should say. If we really want to push it to say that reaction speed is the same with travel and combat speed, I don't know how you would say that, but just for fun, we could say that it's wrong, but again, we can say that. And of course, there's the Nickelodeon All Stars Brawl, which we could actually give him the annihilation power of SpongeBob, or just make him at least comparable. We'll still make an argument if we scale it up to Jenny. That's kind of about it. So yeah, those are the only ways that we can actually make Aang win, or at the very least make this a good standstill and just have like the special X factors being the biggest part of this. That's kind of it for the video. And yes, Aang can win. Unfortunately, we have to use crossverse scaling, which for DeathBattle we have to basically break that rule, which DeathBattle hates. Yeah, but needless to say, I'm happy that they actually got the scaling for Traveler correct, unlike other power scalers who just randomly put him to moon level, even though in lore and the story it does not match. I don't think I didn't know DeathBattle. You use a non-canon reason in explaining the Traveler story. Yep.